Hello, hi, Chica da Silva 77. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right, so you clicked on this because you may be interested in this topic in regarding to why, as a former pro hairstylist, I think that braids is ruining your hair retention, your hair density, and length. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into this, but first and foremost, go ahead and like and subscribe as you enter. Really, really appreciate it. That way, this content can get out to more people and help save them from any type of terrible hair choices. And I'm saying this and I'm treading on, I'm treading lightly here because as someone that I really had an affinity for braids, I'm gonna include make sure I'm all together. I'm going to include in another video some of the braid styles that I used to have in my own hair as well in a upcoming upload. But this was kind of impromptu and it came to mind. So I said, go ahead and put this out here. And the reason why I say I tread lightly on this subject is because braids has been an affinity of mine. I grew up enjoying braids. I was a braider very early on. Even when it came to being a little girl braiding hair, I would have my little Kenya dolls or Barbie dolls and I would braid. And so I started out doing cornrows and then I moved into doing sew-ins and things, but in particular when I'm referring to braids, I'm talking about things like box braids, or now we have the knotless braids, the tree braids, which I feel is kind of on the safe side, and I'll get into why I believe that, and in particular micro mini braids or invisible braids. Now, the reason I say that although this hairstyle is something very beautiful and it's a way that you can, in some aspect, you can protect your hair, it can be very detrimental to your hair follicles. Think about it. You have these small sections of hair that is being held onto by hair that is more dense, and sometimes, especially when it comes to braiding hair is made of plastic. And so you have this unnatural product that's wrapped around your natural hair follicles, and it can cause a lot of weight on each individual strand. In addition to the weight it's causing to your hair, it is blocking out the natural elements that need to keep your hair thriving and growing. And so I love the art form of braiding, and especially when it comes to my culture, my indigenous background being a indigenous black woman, a native black woman, okay, even of African descent, these things are a part of our culture. And when you look at the cultural aspects of it, they're beautiful, okay? So many great things. Like most people that were able to have very elaborate braid styles, it represented your position within that culture. Okay, when it goes back to ancient ancestry. However, when you are wanting to have, but let's go to why I say that it can be something, we appreciate the culture of it and everything, but when it comes to maintaining hair length and retention, it can actually ruin your hair because of, as I mentioned, about just in particular when it comes to the mini or the invisible braids or the box braids, it's a lot of tension involved. And most people want it to be very neat and, very, very intricate. And you can achieve that result. But what ends up happening is that having that long term effect of that weighing on your hair is going to really eat away at your hair. It's going to, I wouldn't say eat away, but it's going to put a lot of strain on your hair. Okay, a lot of pulling, a lot of tugging. And so there is a lot of that happening within our culture where you see these women that have different forms of alopecia, but it's not a natural phenomenon. It is not something genetic for the most part. A lot of times it is the factors that play into getting these very intricate designs and braids. And another thing that comes with why it's affecting your hair length, density, and um, length retention is because when you have these braids in, especially, okay, let's go with even achieving a certain style. For instance, let's focus on the mini braids or micros or invisible tree braids, the very small braids. If you're focusing on making sure that it looks the best, oh, it's going to look really good. You're going to get the result, but the effect it's having on your natural hair is that it is keeping your hair in a position where it's in a weakened, fragile state. So think about anything that's just trying to hold on to something. If you're trying to hold on to something and there's a lot of resistance to it, it's going to eventually fall away. So that's why when it is time to remove these braids, although you may notice you have new growth, the hair that has also been in the braids in itself, when you begin to unravel and take these braids apart, you begin to see that you're having a lot more shedding than you may have even considered going into this. Because you all know that your hair sheds anyway, naturally, okay, on a daily basis. But it gets to the point where it's more shedding than should be. And it's because of the way in which the hair is braided. And another aspect of it is because of the products that's used to maintain a certain look or outcome when it comes to the braids. So if you're using jams, if you're using pomades, waxes, even some people use spritz, and unfortunately, there's some people that even use glue to end the braids. And let's be real, if you're not capable, especially when it comes to micros, if you're not capable of mastering the slip knot technique of securing the ends of the braids with just a few strands of the braiding hair, if you can't master that technique, you should not even consider trying to install the invisible or micro braid technique. Because to put glue in the hair, there's so many factors that's wrong about it. One is glue, and that although some people focus on making sure that they put it past the person's natural hair, how consistent are you with that? Are you going to, throughout all those braids, make sure that you're consistently not putting it on that person's hair? That's one. Another aspect of it is that you're putting this glue in this person's hair, and the fumes of it, although it's a very faint smell, you should not be having that scent that close to your nasal passages, okay? Because it can affect your overall health. Another aspect of why the glue is just a definite a no-no and detrimental when it comes to the invisible braids is that when it's time to remove these braids and you have this, you know, they'll say they'll put like a few dots of the glue, crazy glue, super glue on the hair. Even if it's past this person's hair, the process of either you're going to comb that out and that can tear on the natural hair, okay, causing hair breakage, hair loss, hair strain, which is a problem. Another big no-no is the fact that, some people may even consider cutting it. And more often than not, people end up cutting their hair, too short. It's just so many variables why that is a no-no. So that's definitely something you need to consider when it comes to micro braids. Another thing in regard to micro braids is when it is time to take them out, being that your hair has been in all these hundreds of braids, and again, they're very beautiful. And I share this with you because it's something that I used to wear in my hair a whole lot, to the point where I had to go through the process of really regrowing my hair because your edges and your nape area are like the more fragile aspects of your hair. And being that I was a very well sought after professional hairstylist, and for many years I even was doing hair from my home. And if you're familiar with braids, braids are something that people will travel from very far and pay a good amount of money in order to get their braids done to their liking. And so I was fortunate enough that I was able to provide that service, and people really invested in my craft. However, I began to also notice that um, it was causing effects to my hair that I was not satisfied with. And I had to go through this process of being honest with myself, which is why, after I think I did hair for nearly almost 2 decades. Yeah. But I separated myself from that profession because I just felt like I could not, in confidence, I could not continue to do services that I knew were detrimental to the hair. And so I segued into different styles, like I mentioned about tree braids. Now, this was something that I do think is not as harmful to your hair if you're going to get braids and if you want to have retention and also not compromise the density of your hair. Tree braids, because tree braids are in a cornrow like technique. So opposed to the mini or invisible tree braids, or I mean, sorry, invisible micro braids. Okay, those mini braids that are individual. Tree braids are in a cornrow formation. So being that it's in that way, it's a less strain on your hair. So if you are wanting to get a braid style that mimics the look of micro braids, I would strongly suggest tree braids. I will be premiering tree braids on this channel pretty soon. I'm going to be installing some in my own hair in the coming, it will be probably within the next couple of weeks, y'all. So stay tuned for that. It definitely will be for October. I'm going to be installing some tree braids. And so you're going to be able to see the process. I'm not going to give the full process, but I'm going to give you some good clips of what that looks like being installed, and why if you are going to opt for braids, to, instead of choosing micros, choose the illusion of invisible tree braids. Because tree braids, and I say invisible because I've always liked to have styles that look very discreet and as natural as possible. And so a great option, instead of getting the micros, is to get tree braids. You will love them. And if you find someone that does them right, and another aspect about that too is, even if you're getting tree braids, to make sure that they're not braiding all over your edges extremely tight. Some people may do like some leave out on the edges, but even when it comes to all the different braids, box braids, twists, any of these braid styles can be detrimental if you're not allowing your natural hair to breathe. So don't always, like, the problem I would have with some of my clients, because they really love my service and I love giving them the service. But a problem is if they were to, sometimes I would have clients that would have these braids in for weeks at a time, which is a problem. Now, although they have the ability to last and endure for weeks or for some even months, because you can still wash your hair with these different braids, your hair should not be in that very intense type of style. I would say no longer than a month. But oftentimes, because of the time that it takes to put in, because it may take from 4 to 6, 7 hours to put in certain braid styles, people want to make sure that they kind of get their money's worth, and especially if it still looks good. But sometimes you have to compromise and realize that although you're making an investment in this particular hairstyle, the ultimate investment is in your natural hair. You want to maintain your natural hair, and your hair also should be thriving and growing in these braids or protective styles if they're that protective. And so don't shortchange yourself. Invest in a quality style, and also understand that just because it can last for more than a month, it might not be the best choice to keep those braids in for longer than a month. I would say no, don't max it out. 6 weeks, the max. And even within those 6 weeks, make sure that you get your hair maintenance. Maybe at the 2 or 3 week mark, go back to your stylist. Make sure that if there's anything that is kind of loose, to take it out and do some touch ups, things like that, so that you don't run into having braids that could possibly pull and tug and break off. Sometimes your hair will break off at the root, but there's a braid that may not be as secure or maybe growing out. Right, so you want to do those things and understand that another aspect of braids is that, and I think this too is attributed to our ancient history of braids. Braids were usually for those that had a higher place in society. Like, that's just what it is. It was based on those that were more so like in the upper echelon of their societies, from a historical standpoint. And so if you're getting braids, it is not something that is just a quick fix. It's not something that you do, although some people are doing it, to be efficient with their money, but it's a big ticket item. It's an investment. And if you want to get the braids, it is kind of like you have to invest in going to the spa, a spa treatment and things like that. Invest in your braid style. Don't be cheap when it comes to it, because what you end up doing is cheating yourself at the end. Okay? Because if you're not getting them maintenance and you're not taking care of them properly, or going to the stylist to get them taken care of properly, you're going to see some negative side effects when it comes to your natural hair. So, last but not least, I'm going to share this other thing in regard to why braids could be ruining your hair density and length retention, and that is impatience with removing the braids. I get it. We all have so many different things going on. But if you go into getting these braids, any type of braid style for that matter, be sure that that particular stylist is someone that can also remove the braids if you're someone that you feel like you don't even know where to begin, or you're not even equipped to take them off. And I get it, you're working in reverse, so it may be hard for you to do. So this is why it's important to make sure you vet your stylist appropriately and find the best stylist that doesn't have a problem with not only installing but also doing a removal service. Because what ends up happening is that if you get into the habit of trying to just take the braids out and you don't want to do it, you're reluctant to do it, you're pissed off to even do it for some people, or you're just like trying to rush through the process, more than likely you're going to run into being too hard and vigorous on your natural hair or the hair in itself, and you're going to cause more damage to your hair. So that is some of the reasons why braids could be ruining your hair density and length retention. Thank you so much for tuning in to Chica da Silva 77. Thanks so much. Until next time, bye.